All right, everybody. You are listening to episode 11
11.
of Boulder Uphill. And I'm joined here.
Woo!
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
joined here by one of my best friends, Michael Dashefsky.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, man, of course.
Woo!
Say hi to everybody.
Hello, world.
And so Michael just happens to be in town
Yeah.
from San Diego.
Yep.
And I recorded an episode with Sarah Ray Jackson prior, so I'm
Yeah.
glad that I'm starting to have some of my friends on that I have.
Getting the friends on the episode. That's awesome.
Yeah, and friends that I haven't seen in a while, because it had been a minute since I'd seen.
Yeah, I think it was like 10 months since we last saw each other.
Yeah.
Nuts.
So a while.
Time flies, man.
Time does fly. So I think the last time you and I saw each other was in October, obviously.
Pre-pandemic.
Literally, yes, pre-pandemic.
Before everything just got crazy.
So yeah,
Woo!
Michael and I have been catching up the last couple of days, and it's been really great. And I'm glad that
It's been awesome.
I'm glad that you're here with me on this podcast.
Yeah, man. It's amazing to see like when you first moved in and where you are now, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I literally, when Brian was first getting settled in LA, you were just moving in, and here you are. Everything's set up. He's got all the different frames and things, and all of his like. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah,
It's home now.
yes. The decorations are slowly going up.
Yeah.
Michael had come to visit like just before I was moving out of my West Hollywood apartment.
Yeah.
And that was not an ideal situation. I just wasn't enjoying living there. And so he came and visited my old place, and we caught up then. And now I've been in my current spot in Hollywood since November and kind of making it
Here
my
we
own.
are.
Here we are.
Woohoo!
Oh, yeah.
La La Land. Crazy.
So to give an introduction to who you are,
Yeah.
to the world,
Totally.
why don't you
Okay.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about
You
yourself?
know what?
Michael?
You're gonna hear Brian and I go through these ridiculous voices, because this is the amazing thing about my friendship with Brian is that when we first met each other at this like ballet intensive in SUNY Purchase in 2012, we would do these voices, and was like, man, this is like my comedic soul humor, man, because we'll just be like, yeah, what's up, man?
I don't even.
And that's when that voice started.
Yes, I was actually thinking about telling this story on the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move this mic a little bit from you.
Oh no! I'm not gonna have a voice. No, it's all good, dude.
I think that works. Anyway,
Sure.
I was thinking about the story. Because Michael and I have spent literally the last 2 nights having like 4-hour conversations, and half the time I'm
About
like,
how we've evolved.
as humans,
beings.
because we went to college together and we met each other the summer after my freshman year and the summer after his sophomore year, and just flailing and figuring ourselves out in college, and we had plenty of drama in a drama department. Who would have thought?
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, what?
Oh, what?
So
Drama in the drama department? What are you talking about,
I don't
dude?
believe you.
Liar. I call bluff.
So
Ridiculous.
We met at this ballet intensive because we were both in the musical theater.
Westchester, New York, American Academy of Ballet.
Yeah.
Yes, Brian and I wearing tights.
Oh, yeah.
And taking insane dance classes with some amazing professionals.
Yes.
We were like, what are we doing here?
And amongst professionals too, like
yes.
kids from Israel who'd been training their whole lives, and people from all over New York.
Master teachers from American or from ABT,
ABT,
American Ballet Theater.
Yeah. So
Jeez.
we were like so out of our depth, and because we had both entered into a musical theater program with minimal dance training.
Yeah.
Me, never.
Very little. Zero.
Me, I went into freshman year having never danced, and so it was a rude awakening. And so our professors essentially were like, hey, we're going to send you to this thing, and it's you're going to have a scholarship for it because they do need more
They
men.
need boys, yeah.
Yeah, and so we roll in with a few other guys from our school, so out of our depth.
We're just like, hey, everyone, look at me.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I'm a dancer.
Yeah,
Like,
we were like
okay,
pretending to
well,
be ballet dancers amongst like true ballet dancers.
But you have to like zoom out for a second. That's great. Like now it's like, would we ever do it? Like looking at where we are now, I'm like, oh my God, that would be
would
crazy.
I go to a ballet intensive right now?
No.
Where I'm at in my life, no, I probably would.
No, but like to have the courage to just be like, well, let's do a summer. And this, like when I met you, that was my second summer doing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Nuts, man.
That was so 6 weeks in upstate New York.
Yep.
We met there, and I had seen Michael around the halls. I'm sure you had seen me.
Yeah.
And of course, at that point in our lives and in the program, we're just like so focused on ourselves and so insecure, and like we don't even notice the other people noticing us.
Bye.
Yeah, it was just.
I think I remember helping you out, like you were taking a music theory class.
You pretty much did the whole course for me.
He was doing a music theory class. He's like, dude, is this like looking right? And I'm like, yeah, I think C major. What are you? I don't know what the hell you're doing, but
Yeah.
I got you. I'll help you out.
I had to take an online music theory class, and Michael,
While you were doing ballet at the same time, you were
Exactly.
taking the class and doing this ballet intensive, and we bonded over that,
Yeah.
and had a lot of similar interests, and
Yeah.
both in the musical theater program. Like fast forward a couple years later.
Well,
and then-
well, I mean, to go on the music
Oh, yeah.
tangent, you were able to help me out with the music theory because you are, in my humble opinion,
Oh, thanks,
you're
man.
an incredible musician.
Oh,
and
thank you, man.
You work
Appreciate it.
professionally as a musician.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's like what a whirlwind to see
Yeah.
where we were back in 2012 and see what we're doing now, and how do we navigate now in this insane time that we're in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nuts. So we both went through the program together, and both evolved as human beings.
That pause.
I was just like I had a whole flashback, but
just
oh god, we
It-
grew.
well, before we get to like where what artistic trades you have you've worked in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so Michael and I essentially met at this program, and
Ballet intensive?
and then this ballet intensive, and then bonded through that because we were stuck for 6 weeks upstate New York,
Taking
middle of-
dance classes, guys,
all day.
literally like for 8 to 10 hours a day with a little break in the middle.
Monday through like Saturday, Monday. Through
Yeah,
Friday,
we only had one day off a week,
And it was
pre-professional course,
Yeah.
and especially for us without having any dance training.
true ballet boot camp.
Yeah,
And I told you yesterday, I came out of that thing being able to do a double pirouette clean,
yeah,
and that's impressive.
2 turns,
two whole
two
turns.
freaking turns. People are like,
And
"What?
there's
A double
there's
pirouette?
like a
What's up?
legitimate-
What's that?"
yeah, a legitimate dancer listens
But
to this
yeah.
and they're like, wow, 2 turns, that's nothing.
Yeah, they're like, Yeah.
But so yeah, Michael and I then randomly at that camp for some reason, I remember there was a show
sign.
called there was a
Oh,
show
yeah,
called
yeah.
I want to say was it Royal Pains or something?
it was like something with a hospital, and they
There was
used
a USA show that was filming at the school that we were studying at, and the school was called SUNY Purchase,
Mm-hmm.
and they were filming. It was some doctor show where the guy. Oh, dude, I wish I remembered. I want to say it was called Royal Pains, but I don't think so. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was around the time of like Psych that was on USA, and it was one of those shows, and the guy played a doctor,
yeah.
some type of traveling doctor.
Yeah.
It was like
yeah.
set in like Miami or something, but there was one episode
Yeah.
where there was a hospital and they were filming on our
Yeah, they used the
campus,
exterior of the campus
And
to
they
make
set-
a hospital.
a fake hospital, and so they put up this big fake sign.
And we're walking like to or from class, like to the dance studios, and Brian sees something at the corner of his eye.
I
And
don't
you were
even
like,
know.
what did you say? You were like, oh, where's my side?
We were talking about like
yeah,
what the director would say.
Oh, yeah, if the director was
if
on
we
set.
took that sign, if we stole the hospital sign.
Yeah.
And somehow this voice came out of nowhere that was
Oh my
like
gosh.
this director had a high pitched voice, and he's like, what the hell? What's my sign?
Hold on, we can't even do the
And then
scene
there was a
without my side.
Production hand named Jimmy, but for some reason the director has like a lisp or something where he says Jibby instead of
Hey, Jibby, where's my side?
Jibby. Where did my sign go?
Hold on,
Jibby?
we can't keep the production going without my side.
Jibby, I thought, yeah, what?
I don't even understand.
So we randomly, that voice
it
just
just kept going
followed us for years.
till now. But it also, other kids in the ballet intensive started doing the voice.
They tried
and
to,
we're like, oh,
because,
wow.
mind
okay.
you, the voice is nothing, and
It's-
maybe people listening and watching can relate to having weird inside jokes with their friends.
Yeah,
But
totally.
the voice is so
riffing
random.
on nothing. There's nothing. It's just
So it's
but
like
it caught on.
Just talking like this.
It's
dude,
like we've
and
had this bond forever,
you
dude.
just, call
Where's
us
my
the
side?
Jibby. And so we call our nickname for each other is Jibby. And
Jibby.
throughout college, people were like, "What is that?
Who is
name?"
Jibby?
And it's-
like we'll address each other in conversation, be like, "Yeah, what's up, Jibby?"
What's
And we're like, "No, that's Brian."
Or on Facebook,
it's
we say
Jibby.
like "Happy Birthday, Jibby," and people throughout the years have been like, "What is that?"
Who's Jibby?
Yeah, and so we've had this
Yeah.
weird like inside joke, like riff off, and we find all these characters together, and we just have a blast.
Yeah, totally. So you're wondering what the heck is going on in this podcast right now. But I mean, that's our friendship. They're like, it's
Yeah.
turned into this. No, but really, Brian and I go way back, and it's amazing though because you have a friend that you've been growing up with for a while, and you see how you're both doing in your artistic pursuits, and you check in on each other. And every time I'm able to check in with Brian, now at our point in our life, like not when we're in school seeing each other every day, like it's 10 months that go by, a year that goes by, because I do a ton of traveling for my work, or Brian has moved from New York to going on tour, and my time differences are crazy. And then fast forward, here we are 10 months later, and it's like, dude, since that time you've now had like a year in Los Angeles. You've been auditioning, you've been getting your footing around, and then it's like, oh my gosh, like I've done this contract, I did a tour. It's just like, whoa, crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and then once I graduated school a year after you, Michael has gone on to, I mean, there's so many experiences to list, but you've gone on to travel on cruise trips. Cruise
trips of cruises. Cruise trips.
You got on all the cruise trips.
All of them. Dude, I've done like 80 trips.
So many trips.
The most amount of trips. And people are like, oh my God, this guy.
This voice.
No, but...
So can you, I guess,
sure, of course,
for this brief professional moment of this podcast, give someone a synopsis of like, how you've worked professionally,
absolutely,
and your background in music and acting.
Sure. So I actually started playing piano. Peter Piper. I started playing piano when I was 5. I had a dad that listened to a lot of amazing music. So he exposed my sister and I to learning an instrument. I played piano when I was 5. Then I decided to major in musical theater because we moved from Miami to California. Best decision that my dad has ever made for a family. So go, Dad.
Papa Dashefsky.
So majored in musical theater, met this guy, Bob Jibby, met him. And then out of school, after we both got our degrees in theater, so I graduated a year before Brian did. My first contract, I found out like when I was graduating that I would be performing for Princess Cruise Lines as a vocalist. And so I did a 6-month contract with them. Traveled all over. We started out in Southampton, in England, and then we went from there to Iceland, and then to Canada, so that was my first experience traveling abroad. So that was really cool. Did a little bit of Canada, went to the Caribbean, so that was a really, really cool way because like I never studied abroad and did as much traveling until that contract, and then from there. I moved in with my sister and her boyfriend in downtown LA. Did the whole attempted at like an LA audition grind, did a show with East West Players and a musical, tried Tommy, tried to do a lot of different commercial auditions and little TV stuff, and then I ended up booking this web series for the Lifetime Network and got a SAG card or SAG eligibility through that, but nothing ever happened because I didn't continue the LA grind because I found out that I got a contract working for Tokyo Disney as a singer. So went to Japan for 7 months. And then from there, I got a contract working in Singapore as a singer for 13 months. So I spent a lot of time in Asia. And then tried to do some more auditioning in New York. And then I've been doing this current job that I have now for almost 3 years, which is like singing and playing the piano on cruise ships through a company called Billboard on Board with Holland America Line. So learning a lot of different songs on the piano, like having like over 250 songs and the rep being like, hey, sing Sweet Caroline. I'm like, okay, let's do it.
So going into those contracts, I remember you telling me how you had to learn just so many songs.
Oh my gosh, man. It was nuts.
Your shows.
We didn't have any sheet music. It would literally be like, listen to the track and just like, but also too, keep in mind, a lot of we would do 60 show, 70 show, 80 show, and trying to learn music that you didn't necessarily grow up with too. And I'm like, who the heck is Patsy Cline? Yeah. And I'm like, Patsy Cline? Yeah, but I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, she's amazing. But like, this is what this demographic listens to. So trying to broaden your horizons with like eclectic tastes in music and stuff. So that job, I did that for a little bit, did did a little gig up in Sonoma with Transcendence, who there's a lot of graduates from Cal State Fullerton that has worked there, like Neil Starkenberg, great guy.
Yeah.
Did a little gig with them, and then most recently over Christmas, I did.
When was that?
That was last summer.
So
last
that was essentially
August.
like a summer theater.
Yeah,
That was
summer
in
theater up in Northern California.
Wow, yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you were offering me words of encouragement during that contract. You're like, you can do it,
Well,
Jimmy.
because he was there with. It's so funny. I go from speaking to you to speaking in third person.
It's okay,
I might as well
dude.
just speak
Third,
to you.
first, third, second.
Because you were there, and I remember you were feeling self-conscious because
course.
you were because you were performing on stage with people who had done Broadway. They'd done.
I was like, I'm out of my element. I'm out of my element.
Exactly,
And I'm
but
like,
it's all
ugh.
it's like the imposter syndrome stuff that I've talked about before. You were on stage with these people, so by design, you had a right to be there. You were hired for a job, you know.
For sure.
I remember trying to offer encouragement, even though I struggle with that all the time.
No, but it was amazing though, and that's why it's great to, we check in on each other, even though big bouts of time can go through. But like, yeah, so I did that contract, and I was like in my head about that, but had a great experience nonetheless. Glad that I did it, and it was my first time finally being on a stage again, and not having the barrier of a piano and doing stuff that I've been doing for 2 years and being like, oh, I know this. But it was great to be back on stage. Went on another contract a little bit for a couple weeks with Holland America playing the piano, and then I found out that my girlfriend and I, we booked a Christmas tour together. That was my first time doing kind of what you did in Mamma Mia and doing these like quick turnaround times, doing your show. Everyone get in the van, let's go. We got to go all the way to Atlantic City. And I'm like, what? We just did our show.
Yeah.
Are you get in the van?
Dude, I can't even tell
With
you.
like the reindeers in the background. We're like pushing the van. Like, we're like, are you kidding me? We just, okay. And I'm like, but our show is until Tuesday. Yeah, but we're going to keep driving.
Dude,
and you're like,
I
my
remember,
God.
Speaking of Portland, I left after doing Mamma Mia in Portland. I remember very specific cities where we would do the show.
Yeah.
And then immediately we had been talked to pre-show and like,
Yeah.
okay, guys, just so you know, we're going to hop on the bus
We're going
after
to be
the
calm
show,
about it.
and we're going to drive for 4 hours. So if you're tired, you're tired. And then we're going to get to the next place, sleep there, wake up early, and then drive 8 hours to the next place.
Insane.
And it's just like, how?
It's insanity.
Yeah. So
It's
you
like,
got a little taste of that.
got just a very just a quick taste. And
how long was that?
So it wasn't even that long. Like we rehearsed for about 10 days and then we were on the road for about a month.
Okay.
But like it was insane because geographically, like the tour started in Iowa, but then like it didn't make any sense. Like it wouldn't be just that like we were just covering like destinations that are but you know this, you'd be like, why would we go from Canada all the way down to Florida, back to Canada, through Singapore to get to Australia? And you're like, wait, what? But I'm only going I only need to go from Burbank to San Diego, but I'm going through Singapore?
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, we went from
tour schedules, dude.
We went from someplace and we were like in California. We had somewhere else in California the following week, but then we went up to Canada, went to another state, then back to California. And I was like, I can't necessarily blame anybody for this, but like the scheduling was sometimes
the way that they do the venue booking makes no sense, but like it's just how you're filling in these shows based on the availability that the theater has, right? So it just didn't make any sense with some cities. And I remember when I would call you while I was working in Singapore and you were doing Mamma Mia and you're like, dude, we've just been driving for 13 hours. Why we haven't flown? Aircrafts exist, but we're driving.
Yep.
And I'd be like, oh my God, dude, I'm so sorry. Meanwhile, I'm sweating my ass off here in Singapore. Dude, I'm like, it's crazy. It's insane.
The performer life for sure.
But it's cool. Like there'd be these moments in time where we're checking in on each other and it's like, oh my God, he's on his bus. And then I'm like, and then now I realize exactly what that feeling is during Christmas and like, oh my God. So
I had a lot of life revelations on that bus for sure.
A lot of time of self-reflection.
When you're just staring out the window at like grass passing you by. You're like, I don't know where we are, and then you see like
Antarctica.
We're in Maine now.
Okay. Oh wow.
Wow.
We're in the Pacific Ocean.
A gas station. That's cool.
Totally. I can relate to that too. Like staring outside, like looking at the porthole in the cabin on a cruise ship, and you're like,
oh God,
have no idea where I am, what ocean I'm in, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm in Croatia tomorrow. Yeah. I'm like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts too?
Yeah. So you, I mean, because you and I have had talks about like where we're both standing in terms of, everything being pretty uncertain in the performing world and all that.
Especially now, yeah, it's crazy.
And so for a while, you've kind of been grappling with the idea of being behind the scenes creatively as well.
Absolutely, man. You have a lot of different interests, like especially like with your podcast and other things that you're really, really good at. And I was thinking, I have a big interest in music directing, but I also like leadership positions in terms of like, okay, let's say for Disney, creative management. So I think hopefully at some point in the next couple years, I would say 2 or 3 years, I'll make hopefully the transition from being on stage to either creative management, music directing, or working with talent. Because I want to be around entertainers, around performers, around musicians, but not have the responsibility to be like, I'm going to carry the show.
Yeah.
Or like, I enjoy that. And it's very gratifying for sure. But I also think as you get older and you get your perspective on what's important to you, you almost find it more interesting collaborating with these people and watching their vision unfold and saying like, oh, I can help you this way, but I don't need to be like in front of these 2,000 people doing my thing. But people realize that, and you go through different stages of your life where you're like, oh, I'm always going to be a performer, and that's awesome. But I'm like, I've got all this downtime, and what else is really important to me?
Yeah, and also I think you're in a unique position too, because I mean, ever since I've known you, literally since we met, like I've known you to be an incredible piano player.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, well, it's just the truth.
Thank you, dude.
Because I mean, Michael really is like incredibly talented on the piano. You've been playing it since what age? Like
yeah, dude, 5, man.
-2?
Yeah.
Since
Dude, I
we're
never threw. I
in the-
popped out with a piano.
But so you're in that unique position of music along with
It's so important to me, for sure.
alongside performing and being on stage and that side of it. You've spent so much time literally just behind a piano performing and being a singer and musician. And I've also heard and witnessed firsthand the songs that you've written. I know that you don't do it as much anymore.
Sure.
But like
I know.
The composing
There was a
stuff.
there was a big point too in my life, and I've still tried to grapple with that. Like I
I used
try
to
to
tell people
collab.
that. I used to be like, Michael can freaking compose songs, and they are up to par with the songs that you would hear in New York.
Aw,
from
man.
the
Thank you so
it's
much.
the one, like there's a video with Ellie. Remember the one?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's another thing too. It's like, you have different your life pulling you in different directions, and that was another thing. I was like looking at master's programs, and I was like, do I want to go get my master's in film composition? And that would be amazing, but I definitely think I can maybe do that without the degree, but I also, there's like the practical side of me that's like, if you're going to go back to get your master's, like you already have a degree in an artistic pursuit. Like, what the hell, man? Like, go get an MBA.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's another thing too, during this time that we have to reflect on life because everything's on pause.
Yeah.
I am spending more time at the piano. I helped purchase a baby grand, piano. So I'm definitely trying to do a little bit more writing and just get those creative juices flowing again, or spark that passion, because that's so important to me. But or at least collaborate. Like, you remember Victoria Rosser? She's an amazing singer songwriter. I want to write more music with her. But it's just trying to figure out what is speaking to me the most. But yeah, that's another thing. It's like, I look at these composers like John Williams and Hans Zimmer and all these people with these amazing soundtracks for movies, and I'm like, ooh, that would be really cool to do that too. Well, but like, how do you?
And also, I mean, you and I have...
That would be a huge career change.
Yeah, you and I have known multiple music directors throughout our careers and all that. Oh, yeah. And, like, you see such a wide variety of them, and you also see some that are, like, kind of just okay. Like, you can tell they know music fairly well.
Sure.
But it's interesting, with you just have, like, such a wide variety of things you can do with your musical talent.
Oh, thanks, man.
And it's just true, because there could come a time when you decide to, really lean into composing, or decide to actually, you know what, I really enjoy the music director side, and I'm good at this.
Totally.
So I think part of the reason with this podcast and in talking to so many of my friends around my age, and in the arts, and I've told you how I don't even necessarily, I'm at a point now with this podcast, and I'm only 11 episodes in, where I'm realizing, like, actually, so many other people in so many other industries that are not technically artistic, they are equally figuring their shit out.
Oh yeah.
And
it is
I want to hear from like so many people's stories.
Yeah.
And that's why I think with you, it's you're at a point where you're starting to feel, and with myself as well, but you're starting to feel a shift of like, okay, what's realistic? What can I still be doing that I'm passionate about? How can I blend my interests?
How can I
together?
make ends meet doing it as
Exactly.
well too?
Yeah.
Because that's another thing. It's like I touched on this a lot when I was spending time with Brian. Is that how can you, if you're making ends meet and it's still in a creative way, even if you're not on stage and you're getting paid great money, like it's nice to have that stability.
Yeah.
And like, cool, I can capitalize that. I have like financial security. And how does all of that evolve over time as we get older? And it's not necessarily like giving up on your dream. It's just like, it's a shift in mentality.
Yeah, and it's so funny just because everything we've been talking about the last few days, it's I mean, it's hard not to touch on all that,
Sure.
So in the sense of had such an idealized and skewed vision vision of LA in my head and New York in
Sure.
my head. And when I was a kid, I remember seeing
Talking about it at length.
yeah, but
it's
I remember
crazy.
as a kid seeing people on soap operas and being like, oh, well, I don't know if I'd want to accept that job. But now having worked in the background of these professional sets, I'm like,
you know what? It's a 9 to 5. They're making great money. They're
Yeah.
consistently acting.
and
They're
they're consistently acting. They're getting scripts handed to them, and they're working in front of a camera. And,
Totally.
And same goes with people in New York. When I got there, I was like, oh my God, I can't imagine being in a show for more than X amount of years. But then I made friends who had been in Broadway shows.
I
My
know.
friend in Chicago, the musical, for 25 years. And in my head, I'm like, that must get so boring. But at the same time, you're making good money. You're on stage every day.
Absolutely.
So where,
you're doing what you love.
Yeah.
And you're not having to. People are like, oh, you're just settling. It's like, oh, wait, hold on, hold the phone. Like,
But then we have friends too who have been in the arts in the past, and then they found an alternate path that isn't even necessarily in the arts. They can still have an appreciation for it, but they found out, what, actually, this isn't for me.
and then they're crushing life and they're
Exactly.
happy. So there is no like one size fits all solution. It's
Yeah.
just like, as long as your heart is connected to it and you have passion,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you do, just like do it well.
Yeah.
And see if it helps your mental space and it keeps you grounded and you enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's why I want to hear so many other people's stories.
Yeah,
because like I said,
that's so important.
Initially, I was like, it's gonna be actors and artists
Only
and,
actors,
like,
only Uta Hagen,
Yeah, it's like-
only Stanislavski is invited to
it's
this
also-
podcast. Only Zip Zop Zop or Meisner, blue shirt.
I
Can you
have-
imagine?
You're wearing
Guys,
a blue shirt.
You'll understand. Blue shirt.
Yeah.
Blue shirt.
I'm not.
You're
Gonna
wearing a
explain
blue
the
shirt.
Meisner repetition.
No, but you'll get it.
Yeah, it's because there's just so many podcasts and interviews out there of only artists, and that's when I started it. I was like, I definitely don't want it to be just actors, because no one wants to sit and listen to just things that pertain to actors. That's so not widespread. So the more that I've really sat and pondered what this
Yes, I've just mused over
I've just sat and pondered.
and just
I've just
evaluated.
I've realized, I spoke with a friend the other day who's in the fashion industry. I don't think she's necessarily on the creative end of it, but she's also figuring her stuff out. And this is the time, I talked to you about like Gary Vee essentially just being like, if you're in your late 20s worrying about losing time, like you're still very young. And same with people in their early 30s. And so this general time, including my family and talking with my sister and her husband and where they're at in their careers, we're all figuring things out. And
and on paper you're like, oh man, this guy's like, they got their act together, and you're like, but do they though? They're still
Exactly.
trying to figure out what's going on in their life, or like what's giving them meaning and purpose, and it's a never-ending battle.
But the difference is that, like we've spoken about, is that a lot of times in other industries they have a slightly more stable financial situation
totally
happening.
They're not like, oh yeah,
So-
I got my car wash sign.
Yeah, so we're
You're
like,
and I'm acting.
everybody's
Totally.
figuring things out, but we're like, oh God, I'm broke. Another like
Totally. And
a
that's-
doctor figuring things out. They're like,
Totally.
yeah,
And it's also too that artistic pursuit and wanting to push yourself versus stability. And that's also why, and not to put anyone down that's doing variety based work, but I've stayed a lot with working on theme parks and cruise ships because not only have I been able I could do this, Floopporp. Sorry, Floopporp. We had a little discussion about how ridiculous some of the IKEA names are, and we just had a riff off just about like Eggtorp, Floopporp.
I got a new couch. It's called Eggtorp.
Eggtorp. We're like, anyway, so sorry. Yeah. Random side tangent. But it's crazy because I think about it too, and people in the variety industry, they are doing what they love. They're traveling, they're consistently performing, but then you also, in the other side of you, is like, oh, I want to do something that is going to potentially either push me more or just take a break from the thing that I've been doing because it's so stable and it's so lucrative. I need to take a step out of it and start grinding in New York City or LA just to take myself to the next stage of my artistic pursuit. But it doesn't matter. Like, if that makes you happy doing whatever, being on the cruise ship for however long, or being like, it doesn't matter. It's all great.
Yeah.
We're not trying to put anything down. It's just like, what is good for you?
Well, exactly. And I spoke with Sarah Ray the other day about the woman who plays I don't know, Dr. Gray on Grey's Anatomy, which I don't watch anymore. But
we had that
people who
conversation.
stick with a certain job, it's for so long because there's stability there. It's so easy on the outside to be like, I can't believe you're not.
They haven't done anything else.
Yeah, it's like, wow, congrats, you've done one TV show.
Yeah,
but
whatever.
But
like, well,
on
come
her
on.
end, she has a comfortable life. She's able to make a fair amount of a good amount of money.
Great money.
Yeah, great money. Fantastic.
Fucking excellent money.
With what she's doing.
Yeah.
And it's so easy on the outside to be like, yeah, but you're not challenging yourself artistically.
Where's your Emmy?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, first of all, slow down.
Yeah.
And second of all, she is doing what she loves, but also you're saying, does philanthropy.
Yeah, she's a philanthropist.
So she's putting all of her extra time and money into that too. And like, her artistic means are paying for her other things that fulfill her.
Exactly.
So that's freaking incredible. That's amazing to be in that position.
Yeah, and so I now look at people, that like on the Days of Our Lives set, and I've met so many of the wonderful actors, and so many of them have been there for decades. And now I'm at the point where I am like doing random events, and I've worked all these side jobs, and I'm like, you booked this job, and you've had the opportunity to stick with it. I don't blame you at all, and honestly,
totally, that's great.
If I could be living a more comfortable and stable lifestyle, being on one show, I probably would.
Absolutely.
And if there ever came an opportunity to join something else, and I felt like it was the right step, sure. But I'm in no position to look down or judge anybody for wanting to be in a more stable situation.
Yeah,
and even realizing, like we talked about, that this pursuit isn't for them, and that they actually want to do this. I have an ex who literally got a degree in theater and then moved to New York for advertising. And, and so people find the paths and
totally. And it's funny, like you can go back in time, or like the different mindsets that we had at whatever age, and be like, well, they just sold out, or they have it. Oh, wow, only one Emmy. They didn't want it enough. How dare they? Yeah. And then now you like you evolve through life experience, through working with other people, and checking your own damn ego to be like, oh, that's freaking awesome, and then you become more supportive.
Yeah.
You'd be like, why would you leave the country again, Michael? And then you're like, oh, like you're consistently working, and everyone's path is different. And rather than being like the judgy person, it's like, oh, that works for them, and I understand why someone would do that.
Well, it's funny because with you and I've talked about it a little bit. There was a point with you where I was a little concerned, because it's like what we're talking about, people sticking with cruise work.
Sure.
And we know people who are career cruise performers.
And that's
like,
and
it's like they renew their stuff.
Keep it going.
And because they're making great money, you're not
move that ship.
You're not paying rent, and
I know. And then they come back out of their like 8-10 years on contract, buy a house in cash.
Right.
And you're like,
because they saved for years. So who am I to look at them and be like, wow, you're just trying to escape the real world or whatever.
But on the flip side, I've definitely been in there, man, where I work with people that are so burnt out on what they do, where it's like, listen, you should stop. Like, hopefully you save the money and you enjoyed the lifestyle. Go work on the next thing to give yourself that like mental break.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing whatever you're doing and you're not happy anymore, stop.
Yeah, there's
or take a break.
There is, take a break, or there, and there's no shame in changing direction.
And I think like looking at what you were saying too, there was a part of you that was like pushing me as a healthy friend to say like, hey man, you can do other things.
Exactly.
And I did. So it's like, and that got, that was a big confidence boost to be like, oh no, I'm only stuck here. Like, you know what? Like if you are motivated and you dedicate yourself and you put the time in and you're just willing to, like, it's like stepping out of your comfort zone is what you were saying. And I'm glad you said that, because I think it's always important to also want more in a healthy way.
Yeah. And it was never, when you would tell me about how you were going on to another cruise contract, it never came from me in the sense of like, oh, what an idiot, or I'm judging him. Sure. It was more like, oh, okay, so he just finished something else, and I do want him to challenge himself, and I hope that he's not just settling into something that
totally.
That worry was there. I knew. I know you have a good head on your shoulders.
Sure.
But also, you have done so much more since then.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's that finding that balance of like wanting to push yourself and your friends,
but then get the financial means. Yeah. Because it's stable, like we just talked about.
And you have traveled so much.
Yeah.
You've gone to so many countries, and here I am.
Super grateful for that.
And obviously self-comparison is bad, but like
no.
I look at it and I'm like, I've just traveled the U.S. and Canada, and I've been in Mexico.
But that's still amazing though too.
Yeah.
And remember though, it's funny because we talked about this like 2 nights ago. You're talking about how you got offered a cruise contract, but you turned it down, and you're like, I would have done so much traveling and whatever. Hindsight's 2020. It doesn't matter. But it's good. But it's definitely good to have that healthy push, which we definitely do when we check in on each other. And I think like at that time, now I realize what you're saying to me, but it's like. Yeah, it's like it's weird to think about.
Well, and looking back, I did feel a little bad, because I know at one point you had mentioned, you were like, yeah, I feel like you were always kind of a little disappointed or something like that. That was never the case at all.
No.
It was just kind of like, I don't think I understood that world well enough.
Yeah, and that's fine.
And I think because I'd known people who truly were and have used either out-of-country contracts or cruise contracts as a means of escaping. Yeah. Because they were subconsciously afraid of building roots.
Sure.
They were like,
all right, which I'm definitely guilty of.
Right.
I mean,
and so many are, and so many learn from it. But I think because I'd seen that, I was like, oh, I worry that. Sure. But obviously, here you are because of all those travels, and
and it's amazing. It's always like, man, it's like a catch-22 situation, because like. And that's something too that, and I'm going to tell people on your podcast, I'm going to take this guy, Brian, and we're going to do a world trip, because I want you to go to Europe and see some amazing places. And I want to take you. Yeah. It's going to happen. Yeah. Putting it out into the universe.
Great. I'm ready for it. Yeah.
Look out, the secret.
Once we're allowed to go to Europe and all that again.
Absolutely. And travel. And that's, I think, been for me, like one of the greatest gifts is the people that not even the performing aspect of it, but the people that I have met because of the traveling and the amount of education that I've learned, not in a textbook, but just because of travel and shaping that worldview, and not like comparing other countries, but just understanding how other people live and working with them in close quarters and stuff. It's been a lot of good education.
Yeah. Just world and life experience.
We talked about it too, even like with our friends from Israel that took the ballet intensive with us. Yeah, it gives you another viewpoint from someone that has spent their life in another country. And we're working with them and like their view on things, and you're like, oh wow,
it's so crazy. Huh. I mean, even just talking about the friends we made at that ballet camp, people
the teachers that we had too.
Yeah, we had this
freaking Aviad. Oh my gosh.
We had this wonderful ballet teacher. His name was Aviad, and I was actually really upset to leave that camp because we had gotten so close with
super inspiring
so
guy.
Many people, and he was such a wonderful person. And we were talking about like even
the things that he's done, like
even with him, and I should have printed the laundry list of everything that he's done. But he was our ballet teacher, and at the time he had previously had so much professional ballet training, and he'd performed professionally. And then since then, he's like worked like on commercials, and he designs
For like Miss Universe, like Sweden or
like
something.
he
and
designs dresses and clothing and all this stuff.
yeah,
And
he's like a Renaissance man. I'm like,
Yeah,
geez, like
seriously,
we are
like-
like taking ballet from like Leonardo da Vinci.
seriously,
Yeah, it's nuts.
And so, but also looking at him and thinking, in terms of, we talk about people's paths. He at one point might have been thinking, "Oh, great, I'm going to pursue ballet forever."
Sure.
And then he found a path alongside it as
Totally.
well in the fashion world, and so it's just interesting to see where everybody's paths go. And we met some wonderful people there, and so I that definitely encourages me to travel more, because I would love to experience other cultures.
Yeah, and we will.
we're so
I'm taking you with me.
Yeah, please, because we are so in our bubble here.
Yes.
We in the U.S. with this young, energetic. I don't want to say ignorant. I don't want to have like the worst view of our country.
No. Yeah, it's a very sheltered perspective.
We're in an echo chamber here, and we don't realize what the rest of the world holds.
Totally. And that's the same person in their country could be feeling that though too.
True.
It could be an echo chamber for the government or the people of whatever, if it's Israel or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's important to expose yourself to those viewpoints and actually like get perspective by being in that country, because whatever, it doesn't matter right or left, like we're all getting our information from different things and then seeing, oh, this is what it's like when I lived there. Now I can use like reasoning, and I don't know.
Well, but not to mention even just it's funny, this is now shifting towards like
now we're getting
perspectives.
geopolitical,
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
Sorry, keep climbing higher with your geopolitical
But
views.
even
no,
like
but really though,
with my tour, I now after visiting so many states and states I'd heard of, but cities I'd never even heard of, didn't even know were on the map.
Yep.
And you realize with everything, with the amount
Grand Rapids.
yeah, and like the amount
Totally.
of division in our country, you can't see things from a rural perspective if you've never been to this tiny rural city, and how they view what's going on, and the types of friends.
I know. They're not just flyover states.
Yeah, like,
people
they're real
live there, they
people.
work there, they're great. There's amazing hospitality.
Yeah, and
like
but their views have been shaped for generations for a reason. It's like the
Totally.
only way we can expand people's country view and worldview is if we're patient.
and we're actively also putting ourselves out there by visiting and learning.
Exactly.
You know,
Rather than
we can't just be
painting.
like, we're in LA, we're in New York. You know,
Yeah.
this is how we live,
Like,
and everyone
why
else
isn't-
should be.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got quinoa over here.
Yeah, why isn't
Are
the
you
rest of the
using
country
rice?
Like, yeah, what the
What?
heck? Yeah, exactly.
I got agave. What the
It's
hell
like,
is that?
wait, you guys don't eat
What?
grass-fed
Oh my
meat?
god!
Yeah.
I've been vegan, gluten free. Like, it's ridiculous.
So there's often in the cities that we live in these major metropolitan areas, it's
and
so,
they're great cities. Don't get me wrong.
they have
Phenomenal.
They're great, and they also have a lot of downsides, and it's a whole spectrum.
Sure.
But it's so easy to paint other states in such a negative light without knowing the people there, without knowing.
And same with countries
and
too.
same with countries.
How do we even know? Like, how do we even know?
Yeah,
But it's true.
So I mean, with the little perspective perspective that I have, I've been able to see stuff throughout the country where I'm like, wow. I didn't realize that Bartlesville, Oklahoma existed.
Totally.
But here we are.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
And so I'm hoping that in the years to come, that awareness will just slowly start to spread, and conversations will be more easily had. It'll take a while.
Having the dialogue, it's so
it'll
important.
take a while.
And the willingness to hear other ideas and to travel and to learn and put yourself in someone else's shoes rather than just only being like, well, in my area people are like this.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, come on, like,
and that's why, honestly,
take that ego out and just see like, what is this person's lived experience?
Yeah.
What have they learned? And having a conversation. And I feel like right now we're not having any conversations. It's just like, we do things like this over here and you do your things, and like, screw you.
Yeah.
You're wrong, I'm right.
Yeah. Yep. And everybody
Point
thinks,
one for me.
Yep.
You're like, come on, man.
So it's
Hey.
gonna be interesting, but
It is.
to sway away from the.
I know. Sorry, our little geopolitical, but now we're covering a lot of bases, so that's cool.
Yeah. So when it comes to the performing world and you being in music,
Sure.
How did it feel leaving school and entering into the world of performing in theater and all that.
Yeah.
After having trained in school for it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's, we talked about this at length for a while, but, it's a rude awakening.
Yeah.
It's like, the professors that you have in school think that it's a certain way, and
I gotta readjust.
you're like, I'm just gonna adjust
gotta get
myself
ready
for
for
this
this.
because it's gonna get crazy in here. I'm gonna flip the couch over. No, but it's a great point. I don't think anyone, even if you have the most amazing training at Carnegie Mellon or Juilliard or wherever you go to school, once you're thrown out there and you understand how auditions are run and how to have a resume formatted, and a lot of it too is just lived experience and just throwing yourself out there and waking up at 5 or like, but then you're like, oh, I thought it was like this because of, all these people told me it can be this way. And you're like, no, it's not like that. Like, pull yourself out of your own butt, okay? And wake up and get up at 5 and like put the work in and the time in. And then you'll see, oh, based on these trends, I shouldn't ever do X, Y, and Z. I should just like,
it's so interesting because
it's crazy. Psycho.
I took, for some reason, had the mindset, and it was,
dude, I did too.
For probably a somewhat limited and ignorant mindset of me being in New York, being like, I will never wake up that early for a call. I think
my gosh,
I think I did it once or twice, and I was just like, it's not going to happen. And I talked to Rachel about it. She was like, it's horrible. You can't hit the right notes at that certain time. You get there at 5 and you're waiting forever. But
you're like, where's the list? Oh, no, there's no list.
Michael and I were talking about how what a skewed vision we had.
How delusional we were.
Yeah, seriously.
But but you also can't like slap yourself in the face for having that view because you just didn't know any better.
Exactly.
We didn't know. You know, and you have to live through it and you have to put the time in. You have to wake up early. You have to realize how big and vast the talent pool is and how many people you're like, I'm going into this call and oh my God, like Jeremy Jordan's like right behind me. This is ridiculous.
And
like,
we were talking.
All of a sudden I'm going to be doing like a battle royale against Jeremy Jordan. Yeah. Like, hold on, let me get some experience first.
We talked about how we came from Cal State Fullerton, which in a subset part of California on the West Coast, so removed from New York City.
Yes, and don't get both of us wrong. There are some cool and great professors that 100%. are training their students and doing the best that they can and with the resources that they have. And that's another thing too. It's like, how much money does the school have and what's their endowment like? And are you going to call like the agents for showcase? And it's like, but that's true. It's like, we're so far removed from the New York theater scene that we throw ourselves in there and we're like, what?
Well, because
my resume?
We were talking about, well, we knew that.
Here's my Wicked book.
Okay, you kept it. We knew
we weren't that clueless, but
we knew we needed a resume to walk in. But
oh no, yeah, obviously. But things that we think that we know, and then we're like, oh wow,
and you
fell on my face.
And I told you how I wrote in my journal at the time, and it was like 3-year goal, 5-year goal, this goal, and I was like, I see myself on Broadway within 3 years, TV film within 5, blah 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 within blah, and it was
Emmy Award by.
It was before I even knew the process of anything.
Totally.
And I'm showing up, rolling into New York City, thinking that like I can roll into
look out Broadway.
Yeah. Roll into these big calls. And I told you about the private Chicago dance hall.
Oh my gosh.
That I was completely unprepared for.
A friend of all that jazz, I'm gonna crush it.
A friend of mine got me into the private dance call,
dude,
and this is for the listeners.
I can't believe you never told me about this. Yeah. This is amazing.
So a friend of mine who is in Chicago the musical talked to his choreographer for me, and was like, I know this guy, blah blah blah. He'd be great here. Yeah. And I got into the private dance call for Chicago the musical, and for some reason thought I could be at that same level, even though I'd never trained in Fosse dance. I had never done the choreo before ever in my whole life.
You're like, I'll just watch this YouTube video.
I watched a YouTube video the night before. I went over the choreography for all that jazz.
Yeah.
Thinking I could roll in the next morning being like, I'm on these guys' level.
This.
Meanwhile, I'm next to guys who had been training for years and years and years and years in New York for dance, for Chicago.
That have been on Broadway already.
They've done Broadway. They know Fosse. And they asked us to do improv in the style of Fosse. And I'm like, what do you mean?
I'm just standing there. I sat on the floor.
I literally sat
down. What's your improv? And you're like,
Yeah, and so
6,
in
7,
my
8. Yeah.
delusional 22-year-old fresh out of college brain,
Sure.
I roll into that being like, yeah, I got a shot here. Like, how dare you?
Yeah, I know. But in this is another like viewpoint. In some way, it is actually very, very beautiful because you learn
That's
and you
very
get
kind of you. That's
no,
very-
but you get perspective though,
true.
and you need to have those experiences.
Yes,
of like, okay,
100%.
falling on your face, failing, or even just being like, okay, I am out of my element because the same thing happened to me. I auditioned for Hair at the Hollywood Bowl
Yeah.
with the guy that directed the Hairspray movie. He was the choreographer,
Yeah,
and I was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And then I literally told the casting director, Michael Donovan, I was like, thank you so much for inviting me, but I am so out of my damn element
Yeah.
right now. But I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. I will never come back here again.
And yeah, you got to.
But you need to learn.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's a good way to look at it because I look back and I'm like, what a fool! Why would I have done that? But
But you never would have
actually-
known if you didn't go.
Yeah, it took
You
me
have to show up.
going to that to
be like,
learn.
"Whoa."
Like, got it. Now I know I'm not at this level. And I know that if I
And
want
that's
to,
okay.
yeah. And if I want to be, then I need to be putting in the dance training, this and that.
But then you get smarter too and being like, I'm never going to be in Chicago. What's a show that fits,
Exactly.
that resonates with me, something that I love and that I am actually right for?
Right.
Because there's that too. It's like whatever college tells you a view of like, this is what I should be going out for. And, you're a big fish in a small pond. And then you go back to like the place, the mecca of all theater. And you're
Yeah.
like, hold on. I should be going to these specific shows and auditions and working on these things because it makes me marketable.
Yeah.
Because of this,
Yeah.
I've been there too, man. It's nuts.
And that's also like us showing up, not having learned about things that we should have known. Like no one taught us
Sure.
about equity rules and how to join the union.
Oh my God, the union. Jeez.
And like
yeah.
they, taught us briefly about like our types and the types of songs we should be singing, but they were kind of dated references.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, so it's
And it's always evolving too, because like types now, I mean, what does that even like?
Yeah.
It's just crazy because now, especially with how the landscape is changing, in a lot of different mediums, whether it's like on stage or film and TV, I think there's an openness that's happening with casting, and that's great. So, the view of whatever we were being taught how many years ago,
Yeah.
it might not be the conventional thing anymore. So it's like the only way that you learn about it is actively practicing and showing up to those auditions and having those moments where you're going to fall on your face. Cause I've definitely been there too, being like, I
God,
got
man.
this. And I'm like,
Seriously.
who am I to, oh my God, this is a freaking
Yeah.
Broadway
it's,
dance call. Okay.
Yeah.
You're like one short day. Here we go. Wicked. You're like, oh my God.
learning how much work you have to do and
Yeah.
all that. It's just so funny because I know years from now I'm going to look at the way that I viewed LA when I first got here, and I can already look at myself a year ago being like, you thought that progress was just going to happen overnight when really it's going to be
It is a slow grind.
Yeah, it's a long game, and you got to play it smart and also not burn yourself out and expect too much.
It's like, yeah.
So like I'll look back at my, when I first arrived in LA and be like, wow, you had such a faulty view. It's actually going to
Sure.
take bouts of not technically working in the industry for you to get experience and the means to pursue. It's just going to always be this ebbing and flowing.
Yep.
Until you hopefully hit some form of stability in it.
Yeah, totally.
So God, yeah.
Different, like door to door to door,
Just
what,
just the fact that like I thought showing up from Cal State Fullerton, but it's a select amount of people in New York City know
Totally,
Cal State Fullerton.
totally.
It's just it's all things you have to learn.
But hey, you and I are both grateful for our training.
totally.
To have that
Yeah.
discipline, to have gone to that ballet intensive,
Yeah.
to meet the people and have the training with our professors and
Yeah.
stuff, and our classmates that were
Yeah.
also, we were under immense stress.
Immense stress and
Yeah.
good. Yeah, regardless, I'm grateful for the route that I took in the training because I've looked
Sure.
back and I'm like, we've talked about how maybe we should have done a degree in
At
another.
length. Yeah.
And I look back and I'm like, I should have just done the acting program, but then that also wouldn't have led me into like.
And then
learning.
you're like, oh, I'll get a communications degree.
Right. Like,
Because you're like, I could have just gotten that and then planted myself in LA.
yeah, because they don't ask you
they don't
for your
even
degree
care.
here. They don't, and even in New York,
Even
you
they
can
don't
you
care.
can get into an audition without having gone to college for it.
Sure.
It's just for me that set the base of my training that I
Yes.
did need. So it's easy to look back and think, oh, I should have done things differently. But regardless, like it did doing musical theater, I never would have gone to New York probably because
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been like, oh, well, naturally I got to go do theater. I
Yep.
wouldn't have met half of my best friends.
Right.
Just, there's so many things that wouldn't have happened.
If you didn't major in theater, we never would have met.
I know. Yeah.
What the hell, dude?
I know, man. So
Damn,
it's
crazy.
It's crazy the way that our paths lead in that way, and that's
how life works. And everything that happens is, I hate to be like that guy, but it all happens for a reason.
A reason.
Deep breaths. Yeah, but really,
Yeah.
but it's true.
Yeah.
And it's always to be like, well, how did you do? No, it's you learn from that experience, and you make, like, now you're like, this is how I would have done it, but you can't compare at all.
Yeah.
Like, it was supposed to happen, and you learn from it, and
yeah. Well, so with you, you had this, I guess, semi-rude awakening, but then, a fair amount of success being hired as a professional performer.
Sure. And I tried to capitalize on, this is what I might be good at. But there also have been times too, and we talked about this, where, like, because I haven't planted roots, I might have been closing doors to opportunities that were maybe, like, quote unquote, more favored, or would push me in a more fulfilling direction, or just, like, help me. But it's shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? And there's definitely time where you're like, oh man, I feel like I'm getting a lot of momentum here, but I already accepted a contract. So, like, because once you, and this, like, once you finish Mamma Mia, or once I do my contract on the ship or Disney or whatever, and you come back, you are starting all over again.
Yeah.
All over again. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, cool, it's on your resume, but, like, you got to go back to the grind again, and you start at the bottom. But hopefully you worked with that choreographer or that director who knows you, and it's just like a never-ending cycle. But
yeah, I mean, I remember when I was still on tour, I was telling people, I was like, well, after this tour, I'm never gonna work in a restaurant ever again.
Never.
Because now that I've done a tour, oh my God, life is gonna be
close
easy.
that door, dude.
I was so delusional being on that tour, because I was like, great,
Naivete.
I'm like working as an actor on a national tour. Naturally, when the second that goes on my resume, when I get back to New York, everybody's gonna be like, nice, hire him. And, like, that's just not the
not
case.
how it works.
And it took me coming back to be like, oh, got it. And also then realizing that New York is obviously very regional theater heavy. And then seeing all the Mamma Mias pop up, I was like, my next thing that got me an equity card was doing Mamma Mia again. And I was like, okay.
And then you had that, like, conversation with yourself. You're like, is musical theater what I really want to do?
Exactly. Or at least right now.
Because this show doesn't really speak to me, but, like, or the scene doesn't really speak to me.
Exactly. The scene and the people very much do. And also, I established a love for musical theater while over there.
Yes.
While recognizing that if I'm going to go hard for something, it has to be something where I appreciate all aspects of it. And there were so many shows that I didn't care for that had auditions. And I was like, honestly, I'd rather stay working at this restaurant in New York City than go off and do this show in Florida.
Definitely.
And it should be the people who are so hungry for it that they'll
do anything.
They will take that job. And I was not that guy. And I just started realizing that. If there comes a point where I can revisit musical theater at some point, fantastic.
And I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
Man, I'm sure you will.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on Broadway.
Yeah. Look out, Broadway. Look out, Wicked.
So where do you see yourself?
Oof. Yeah.
Oh yeah, baby.
Oh no, we're gonna open
there.
that box.
Oh yeah.
Oh, how dare you! Turn the podcast off. Unplug the microphone.
Get this out of here.
Oh God! Oh,
I quit.
Oh, straight to DVD.
I'm not going there.
Oh no. Yeah. Where do I see myself? What in the how many year time frame? Tomorrow. Back in San Diego, dude. I was gonna say, check.
In La Jolla.
Yeah, you're like, you'll be in La Jolla.
No, just so knowing how far you've come since you graduated in 2014, and what a vast,
now 6 years out of school.
6 years out of school, the variety of things that you have done.
Sure, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't have all the answers, but if I were to look at my experience that I've had performing and meeting friends and networking from abroad, I have also toyed with the idea of owning a production company because I know some amazing dancers and choreographers and musicians and stuff. That would be, I think, like an ultimate dream, or working like with pinnacle. A company. Yeah. Or working with a company like Cirque, but it's so sad that, like, they're freaking bankrupt.
That's another thing. We didn't even touch on the fact that, like, the things you have a passion for, I always found it so fascinating. You have a passion for Cirque du Soleil
Yeah.
and the music.
And the music in Cirque.
you
Oh
and
my
I
gosh,
saw-
like that was a
you-
huge
yeah,
dream.
you
I'm
and
like,
I
I want to
saw
write music for Cirque. But
Zarkana in New York.
at that ballet
summer
in
of
2012. Yeah.
and that was when I didn't really know the city that well. You didn't know it,
And you're
we
like,
were
who the hell is Cirque du Soleil? And
we're
you're like,
what's
holy
Radio
crap.
City? What
What
is
is a
this?
city?
Yeah. And what is this?
What is a radio?
Yeah. Well, so I remember finding that out, and then like you did your best to like go see every Cirque show, and I was like, this
Yeah.
is so cool. He's so interested in the music of Cirque.
Yeah, you know, and but also too that just them as a company, I found them very inspiring. Obviously, there's Disney,
Yeah.
major entertainment powerhouse. It's weird to talk about it now because everything is on pause, but
know.
things will come back though.
Well, like we were talking
Obviously.
about, this is, even though in the moment this pause feels so monumental, and it is.
It is.
It very much is, because it's affected so many people, and it's affecting
know.
us, affecting our coworkers and our friends and our loved ones.
Yeah.
In the entertainment world,
Especially our
it
industry.
is monumental, but it's but it is also too important it's important to recognize that it, in the grand scheme of things, this is a very small moment in time, and the entertainment world will rebuild.
Yes, and how much will we have grown because
and how much
of
will we have
this?
learned from it, and how will we structure things from now on to protect against this type of thing
Yes,
in the future?
in the future, and how can we make how can we continue to make diversity important, inclusion important? There's going to be so many good that's come out of this craziness.
The social movements that have happened recently.
Yeah,
so.
but no, it's interesting that you said that. So like in terms of a future plan, it would be cool to own a production company or work for one that I really regard, whether it's Disney or Cirque, or work on the managerial side. I just had a conversation with a really cool executive at Holland America who's basically like the operations of entertainment, like on the logistical side. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, like I just had a conversation, and this is something that's great. Like when you have a close friend like yourself, when you're spitballing ideas, but you can also reach out to a mentor or a person that has a job that you are potentially interested in, or just saying like, hey, like how did you get to where you're at? So I talked to him on the phone for like an hour and 15 minutes, and just got his insight. And I think it's like right now it's great to just be asking questions and see what resonates with me. I definitely know that I don't see myself at all in some kind of like 9 to 5 that doesn't have any creativity with it.
Right. Which is important to know.
Yeah. And not that like, you know, I have to be doing something where I need to be around performers. But I love that creative mind though. And whether it's a musician or dancer, whatever it is, like I need that creativity around me, because I don't see myself like as a cubicle kind of person at all, or like having a very fixed schedule and not being able to travel. Like there's certain things that I need to keep with me, traveling a lot too. Well, because it's my family.
And it's also like, I mean, I know people who, you know, they were behind the scenes of whether it was my tour or another show, traveling show, whatever, or even with cruises. The people behind the scenes also have the opportunity to go visit the show in a certain state.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Be like, dope. They're
like the choreographer, the maintenance choreographers, or like the music, maintenance directors.
The music directors coming to visit us
just to check in
and make sure everybody's harmonies are fine. And like,
oh, you sound great.
Yeah, and like we get to spend time with them, and then they go back to LA or wherever they're from. And so
6, 7, 8.
Yeah. So cool. I think that it's important that you know the route that you want to be at. On.
Yeah, I think I don't really quite know, because I would be lying to be like I got it all figured out. I mean, who really does? But I know that I don't want to be away from the creative people that I have in my life, and that I need to have that, whether it is a little more structured. That's fine, but I don't want to not have like those people around me.
Yeah, and now that you're saying that, I'm pretty much the same way. I've said in the past how, you know, even just doing a podcast and, you know, hosting in a sense, you know, having some type of platform that I'm building.
Totally, man, and I'm proud of you for doing it. It's great. Yeah. You've been talking about doing something like this for ages. Yeah, and not really knowing what to do. And I was like, this is great. A podcast is a great idea.
Yeah, and also, you know, in a moment of pause, I was able to be like, oh, okay, let's actually just do it.
Sure.
But I've always known that even if my route doesn't end up taking me to being a 100% working actor, I've always known that I want to have some type of interaction with people, telling stories, being hoping, giving insight or inspiration if and when I can. So I don't know. I do know that I'm going to want to be around, in the long run, I'm going to want to still be around creative people.
Yeah.
And we'll see where that goes.
Absolutely.
Because if you were to ask me the question of like, where do you think?
Yeah, where you gonna be, dude?
I'm like,
tomorrow.
Okay, like ideally I can.
How about a year from now? Yeah, open up that journal and you're like, year 1, I'm gonna be here. Year 3, I'm gonna be here. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's like, it's great to dream big, but your reality changes as you get older and you grow and you have life experience, and you're like, maybe this isn't as important to me, but I'm loving this right now. So like, let me keep riding this train.
Yeah. And I think
whatever that is.
Yeah, because we're constantly changing.
Yeah.
You know, if I were to say like what my ideal future looks like and like the exact thing I'm going to be working on, and
It's this.
I'm going to be in movies
forever.
And, Tom Cruise, watch out.
Get out of here, Brad Pitt. You suck.
So
it's going to be me.
There could come a point where that happens, sure. And
it's going to be me.
Off in that world, that could very well happen. But also on that path,
cool too.
I could be one of those people that realizes like, oh, actually, you know what? That life isn't for me. Or I'm happy working on a smaller scale, like that's the soap opera stuff we're talking about. Like there's so many avenues.
Or also just interviewing some of these people.
Right. Yeah.
Like you're great at interviewing people too, so it's like have these people come in and like learn from them, and you know it's the sky is the limit, really.
Yeah, exactly. And also
because you'd be cool with that too. You'd be like, oh my gosh, these people come over here.
Yeah, and if
like,
I can make live a comfortable life, I don't need a freaking mansion in Malibu. If I can live a comfortable life,
I just need a small mansion in
Malibu.
Just give me a place in Studio City.
Oh God, I mean
those $2 million houses. We walked there yesterday. Yeah. It was awesome.
Michael and I went on a long walk in Studio City.
We had like an HGTV thing going on. We'd be like, oh yeah, shiplap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow,
Scandinavian.
That's like a little mid-century modern.
Yeah, that's a Scandinavian light fixture. Okay, that's cool.
But I would be very happy if I was making a comfortable living doing even something like this, or if like some TV show was like, hey, we want a host, or like
we need a host. Yeah.
I would be like, hell yeah. It's not I'm not on screen in the sense of like, wow, I'm in the next Tarantino movie, but I get to be.
But you get to research, you get to know who these people are, and also you get to learn through them.
Yeah, and it's cool. I've just always known that whatever I want to do has to have some type of meaning where I am connecting with other people.
Sure.
And I'm hopefully inspiring or sharing.
You know, you've told me a lot since we've been hanging out is storytelling.
Storytelling.
So you say that all the time, storytelling. And like, that's true. You want to be telling stories with people.
Yeah.
Like this.
Exactly. Whether it's my own stories or listening to theirs, and like,
or whether it's you on TV.
Or whether it's me telling someone else's stories through acting. I just know that what I want for myself has to have meaning. And you and I have talked all about the influencer world, dude. I just can't.
Oh my gosh.
I can't with that.
That's going to be a separate
you'll be back. Like probably next time you're here, I'm up there. We'll do another episode.
But you should do a whole episode on that, because that like there is that toxicity, I think.
I don't want to shit on influencers for a whole episode.
No, you don't have to. But like there's
I can't stand it.
I know. I can't.
It's you and I.
It's soul sucking and like mind numbing.
Because you are not.
It really is.
Like, and also, mind you, I recognize that there's a very high chance I could be coming off as someone that's like trying to be all highbrow. Like, I don't do anything unless it's got meaning.
You know? I am above you.
If that's not high art, I want none of it. Like,
I only want quinoa.
Yeah,
you're like, oh come on, man. Like,
so I don't want to be that guy like shitting on influencers being like, you have no meaning.
No.
But it is, I just can't stand the self-obsession.
Yes.
And like, I'm going to post a 10-second video of me literally just like doing duck lips to the camera.
The self-involved nature of it. And also, it's sad though, because I think about people that potentially like, that are only enabling it. And it's like, oh God,
the fans of it.
Sure. And it's just like, whoa, like pull yourself out of that technology and like look at the actual content that's being produced.
Yeah.
Is it allowing you to think?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Seriously.
And don't get me wrong, like we need our ways of escapism and stuff like that. But it's very easy to just get down that rabbit hole, and it's just really not productive or helping anyone.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like they're posting these videos so that they can give their money to a you know, a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Like they're not these like holy saint
And
people
we should
that
say
are.
most are not like that. I'm sure that there are some.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
that.
absolutely, for sure.
But the people we flip through on the explore page on Instagram and all this stuff, and now Instagram, you know, as of recording this podcast today, Instagram just
Sure.
released the Reels.
Oh my gosh.
Feature of the app, and it's essentially TikTok but in a new form. And it's just like you flip through this stuff, and it's just
It's scary because I really think that it is hindering our critical ability to think.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Really, like we're just getting numb to just watching these videos and
An
these like
attention
nothing.
span. And so that's why
there's no storytelling too.
Right, exactly.
It's like I'm not learning anything. It's just
so when I
crazy.
view these people's if I envision a future for myself where like, oh wow, like I want to build my online following so that, you know, I can have more of an online presence. It's like, yes, there is a point where if you're making money, fantastic. Like good for you. You're not waiting tables.
Sure.
But at the same time,
there's also something to be said, which you've touched on, is that people get a huge following because of their success as a whatever it is,
Exactly.
musician, actor, writer, dancer, whatever, and they've just naturally got that following. They're not like, you know, there's people that are paying for followers and all this like crazy stuff. I'm
like you were saying, all the bots and
that's
everything.
Important.
And so
Jeez,
when someone builds a following through the work that they do,
yes,
whether it's in the arts, whether it's...
You could be a dentist that does phenomenal work.
Literally.
And have a kick-ass following. Good for you, doctor, you know?
Yeah, whoever. Yeah, so I just know that I'm going to need some type of meaning, and the types of videos and these forgettable 10-second videos. Someone gets really popular from a video, and then it's like it's forgotten, and congrats, you spent all that time on that video. So the influencer life has no interest holds no interest to me.
Yeah. Like what would happen if all of a sudden their profiles just disappeared?
I know.
People would continue to move on, and
that's why I look at, you know, people who are actually doing the work and they just happen to have the following. It's like, great, if that social media app was deleted, they would still be doing their work.
Sure.
So
because that's the most important thing to them. It's not about just like, I need more people to watch me.
And it's hard because
talk to my cat.
Yeah, and someone outside of LA or the major cities might be watching this and being like, "Oh, I don't really feel like I'm not surrounded by social media." But when you are here and you walk around, and
there's a huge pressure for it.
And also, I mean, yes, it exists.
Very different than New York, really.
Yeah, because also New York has more people, and it's not as spread out, and so everybody's walking around at all times. Here, you can pass by, and there's an influencer wall over there, and it's pink, and it says Paul Smith, and it's in West Hollywood. And you pass by, and all these people
someone licking an ice cream cone in a very specific way. You're like, are you really?
God. So I just know that like whatever I build for myself, I want it to be because of the substance.
Yes.
And
that's you said it.
And that's all.
You said it.
You said it.
You said it, Phil.
You said it.
You kept saying it. But it's
I
true.
heard him say it.
Yeah. Substance.
Yeah.
So important.
So that's like, so on the flip side of what you said, in terms of no matter what, you want to stay in the creative world and working with talented creative people.
Working with substance.
Yeah, I'm of that mind as well, and I would like to, you know, have a future.
Yeah, 100%.
A future in substance.
Substance.
So because hold on. Screen keeps turning off.
It's all good.
Because we've clearly just been able to fly through an hour talking.
Yeah, man.
I would say final tough question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
If you could, oh God, actually, I'd see there's two questions because there's one.
Do it. Go for it.
Where it's what would you
Buckle up, Michael.
Yeah. What would you tell the Michael of?
Ooh.
Yeah, of, let's say, of 2014.
Like right out of school.
Yeah. What would you? So I'm going to give you two questions to prepare.
Oh God.
Yeah. You better buckle up.
Oh God. Do you have a seatbelt on this couch?
What would you tell the Michael of at age 22 compared to where you are now?
Okay.
Because you're what, 28 now?
Yeah, 28, turning 29 in October.
Soon. Yeah. But what would you tell him?
Yes.
And then
listen, Michael.
Hold on. Second. You listen.
You listen, Michael. You listen
right
good.
And then number two, what would you tell someone else who is entering the world, whether it's after college or honestly leaving their hometown, or they want to leave their hometown and they want to pursue something in the arts, whether it's they see themselves performing, they see themselves in music,
or technical theater, or whatever it is. Yeah, dancer.
Or I guess Is there a way to combine those two questions? Like,
Yeah,
what would you tell someone who is in that position?
I think
Take with it what you will.
Yeah.
And go.
Okay, buckle up. Okay, listen, Michael, 22-year-old boy.
No, I would I would tell myself that like it is okay to not know and to just take that pressure off yourself. Like we put so much pressure on what we're supposed to be and self-comparison and being good enough that like just breathe. It's going to be fine, and if you set your mind to it, then it's going to be okay. Like, I think like that's so easy to just be like, wow, that's it. That's our advice. Yeah. But no, really, it's going to be okay. If you have a good support system, like if you have good people in your life that nurture you and you have a good head on your shoulders and you just relax, it's going to be fine. Yeah. That's what I would tell myself. And I would also tell myself that, or tell others that if you have an opportunity that's going to push you or take you out of something that you're not used to, go for it. You got to do it. Like I could have looked at any contract that I was given and like, oh no, like living in Tokyo for 7 months or living in Singapore for 13 months or working on this cruise ship where I don't like, you have to just do it because, we're not here on this planet for a guaranteed amount of time. Like you have to just do it, like Nike. No, but really, like you gotta just go for it and just do it, buddy. Come on, do it. No, but really, like you have to just do it.
Hold on. Do it,
dude. Don't squeeze it. Like just do it.
Yeah. It's true because you have to get out of you have to get out of your own damn way and know that it's gonna be okay. And lean into the people that can give you the encouragement and nurture. Like during those times that get difficult, I will call you. I will call my family, my girlfriend, whatever it is, to be like, okay, I just needed that vent sesh. I'm gonna go back out tomorrow and go back on these auditions. Yeah. And like all it does is it's that one person that potentially believes in you because you're doing something great in the room or whatever it is. And now you're like, oh wow, I'm gonna be packing my bags and living in this place. You would have never had that opportunity if you didn't just frickin' show up.
Yeah.
So just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that there is a common thread with other answers that I've gotten as well, and things that I agree with.
Sure.
Finding your people. It's
Oh
fine.
my God.
It's
so
like
important.
no matter what, if you go out and you go your hardest in whatever the industry is that you want to be in, without finding people, good friends and a support system, because if you are someone who does not necessarily come from a great support system at home, it will help you out in the world when you find common people and with or people with common mindsets and all that. So it's also being open to experiences, because I'm very you and I've talked about how I'm very much like an introvert, and if I'm alone at home, like I have been in LA, I can start to go a little nuts.
Dude, anyone can.
And even just you being here crazy for the last couple of days, it's been like so rejuvenating to connect with
Same
a friend.
For me. Yeah. It's important. Support system is really everything. And with a great support system, I think you can accomplish like anything that you have in your mind. Because sometimes you're going to need to lean on other people, or you're going to need to just get some perspective, or talk to someone that's not even in your industry, to just be like, hey, how was your day and what are you dealing with? And let me check in with you, and being like, oh my God, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do this, you know, and surrounding yourself, I think, with a very diverse group of people. It's very easy to be in your own echo chamber, being like, I'm only hanging out with my actors. Yeah. Like, I'm only hanging out with my actors that are taking Stella Adler. Like, come on, dude. Get out of your own head and like talk to someone that does something completely different than you. Yeah. Like you and I will have these conversations when we're talking to our family members. Like my sister works for an architecture firm, and with your sister's husband, and like talk to other people that are doing different things, and like it's good to get perspective. It's really important to get perspective.
Seriously, yeah.
Couldn't get into that audition room. Like, oh well, like
it's like, why I don't only want to talk about
the same things
with you kind of want some pushback and some challenging. So it really is a matter of finding.
I think about this too. Also, sorry to interrupt you, but like with the reason why you and I really connected back in 2012 was because we had so many different interests.
Yeah.
We weren't only talking about musical theater.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. Which
was
is funny
like
'cause
Tommy too,
yeah.
dude. You want to only talk about Sondheim?
Yeah.
like not that he's amazing, he really is, but
Yeah.
like we were doing voices
Yeah.
and we were just laughing.
like
We were connecting that way.
exchanging like comedy bits and like
Exchanging
watching-
stupidity,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Like,
you know, it's funny. In the episode with Sarah Ray, she again another semi-common thread is that she and I think connected because we recognized that we had other interests outside of
Yes.
of purely
my gosh.
performing,
know.
you know, and it's funny too because we spent a fair amount of time talking about our musical theater background on this podcast.
Sure.
So we're like, we don't only talk about musical theater. Anyway, back to musical theater.
yeah, anyway, so how is Lin-Manuel doing?
Yeah.
like, oh, come on.
But
I
like
know.
in life, when we're not
Really?
discussing each other's backgrounds, rarely are we sitting down, you know, chatting about the industry.
the industry.
Like it's
Yeah.
important to have other interests because, as I told Sarah Ray, and as you and I are now talking about, those other interests can very well become fully fledged paths that you find yourself on.
Careers,
You know,
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
And
It's
the-
so important.
the simple statement of just do it is a very profound one.
Yeah, to like take the jump. It's no different than when I was like, Brian, do you want to go skydiving with me?
I can't believe I did that. I really
He went him and I went skydiving together, but it's a great ridiculous metaphor for life. You were gonna move to New York and
Yeah.
I was gonna move to Tokyo to do my job there for 7 months. And it's like a great way to start a new chapter.
Seriously.
Just go for it. It doesn't
Yeah.
even have to be that extreme, but like get
Just
the courage.
jump out of a
Just
plane.
jump out of a plane.
But no, it's funny because that summer I look back on that, and you asked me, and I was sitting at the Equinox that I was working at.
You never hesitated though.
For some reason, I never hesitated. I literally,
so glad you
I
said
just
yes.
jumped to saying yes, and I was like, great, let's book it. And that summer was just like such a like jump off the edge summer because I was like, okay, so many things ending, new beginnings. I'm leaving California. Like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
And then you were like, hey, before you go, let's go skydiving. And I was like, all right, let's do it.
All right, I'll send you the money.
And it's funny because you, I look back at the videos and like you were having an absolute blast while you were up there, and I,
You're like, oh my god. Oh my
for a
god.
fair amount of the time,
I think I exited the plane like in a backflip. I was like,
Yes.
see ya.
I just like couldn't. When I was in free fall, that was one thing. When he's strapped to my back and he's holding onto the sides of the door and he's like, all right, 1 and 2. And you just like fall
Yeah.
over the side. That's one thing.
Totally.
That's a sense of free falling. But then I think I actually got more scared while holding the parachute. He's like, all right, and just you can hold it, steer.
like, "Oh."
And I watched the video and I'm just like, oh, because I think I was thinking like literally we're hanging in midair. If that parachute breaks, we're falling.
Yeah.
Like just
Totally.
we're falling. There's nothing supporting us.
It's a great metaphor for how you should just tackle life. And
Yeah.
being like, you know what? I don't think I can do something. I'm like, dude, you just jumped out of a freaking plane with me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that drive and that like sometimes that willingness to just throw yourself out there could be the best decision you've ever made. Like I
Totally.
think about like my dad moving my family out to California and I'm like, he had no idea how it was gonna go. And
Yeah.
now my parents are retiring and I'm really proud of their success
Yeah.
and what they've been able to do for my family and the things that they were able to provide for us. But like if he never had that impulse to do it, then where would I be now?
And and also all the things that you have now experienced and accomplished in California wouldn't have happened without that jump of his. So yeah, that's
Crazy.
I think
Insightful.
that's a solid answer.
Thanks, man.
And the reason why I ask these questions is because if there is even one person who listens to this podcast and recognizes a bit of themselves in your
Even
story,
with our voices.
yeah, I mean,
They're like,
with-
I like their humor.
yeah, yeah, and if they recognize something about their story in your story, I like the idea of this being useful to somebody or helping someone else. Because shit, if I was in New York and like struggling alone, like I was my first year and not knowing anybody and all
Getting
that,
out of that funk.
and I found something that that helped, that made me feel better or like gave me some extra insight, I would want that. So
Sure.
my hope with all of these questions
Yes.
is that at least one person can get something out of it.
It's gonna be me. I'm the
And
person right
hopefully-
here.
So
Yeah. But really,
I think This hour and change flew by.
Wow.
So I think that I think we can wrap it up. And
Yeah.
I mean, to plug your stuff on social media, is there anywhere that anybody can go to check out
I have a
things that you've
website.
done? Okay.
Just my first and last name.com.
Okay, michaeldashefsky.com.
Yeah, and just like the different places that I've worked, and most importantly, the thing that I'm most proud of is the places that I've been able to travel to.
Yeah.
So you can see that on my website as well.
Great. Man. Yeah, and then I don't know your exact Instagram handle, but I can.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the.
It's all
thing.
good.
I'll
It's
put
all
that in
good.
the thing below.
And if anyone has any questions too, like I like giving out travel recommendations.
Yeah. Well, okay.
So,
to,
that's
to,
another
well,
thing.
To end this thing, like,
Yeah.
If anyone has any questions about traveling on cruise work, traveling on cruises,
or even just like figuring out what global entry is. It's like to get in and out of
God.
countries pretty quickly.
But like any of the industries and avenues you've worked in, if there's someone listening or watching that has an interest in those, reach out to this guy.
I would be more than happy to answer questions like, what is it like, living and working in Tokyo for 7 months, or Singapore, or wherever, or you're planning a vacation to Thailand and you want to know places to go to, or you're going to China or something. Let me know. I've spent an extensive amount of time in Asia and in the Mediterranean, and I would love to help you out.
Great.
Yeah. Done.
Yeah. So I think that's gonna just wrap it up.
Thanks,
this
buddy.
This is
It's a good one.
episode 11.
Crushed it.
Yeah,
Woo!
baby.
Oh yeah, full of fireworks.
So big thank you to
Thanks, guys.
this guy right here, Michael
Thank
Dashefsky.
you, my man.
This has been episode 11 of Boulder Uphill with Brian Whitehill.
Yep.
And subscribe on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify
Do it.
Podcasts. I think Amazon's like randomly starting podcasts.
Subscribe,
I don't know.
subscribe.
But and then also I post the videos on YouTube. And I will see you guys next time. And again, a big thank you to you,
Thanks.
Thanks, Jibby.
at Michael Dashefsky.
Thanks, guys.
For being on the
Stay safe,
podcast.
everyone.
All right, everybody. That is all the time we have today. So I will see you next time.